بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So tonight we're going to start the rules of Nun Sakina and Tanwin. So in the previous lesson we were talking about Mim Sakin, and we discussed the various different things there. So in Mim Sakin, we talked about three different rulings: Izhar, Idgham, and Ikhfa. So for Nun Sakin, you can write Nun Sakin and Tanwin / Tanwin. So we're going to talk about four different things. Izhar, second one, Idgham. You can call it qalb, or some people call it iqlab. So because you guys used to iqlab, so I just say iqlab. And then lastly, ikhfa. So it's just like Mim except for iqlab. Mim has izhar, idgham, and ikhfa. So Nun Sakin and Tanween is going to have an extra iqlab there. Now, what is a Nun Sakin? That's pretty simple. Nun with Sakin on it. Tanween is the double harakas. Right? In Arabic, a word can either have a alif lam or not. So, for instance, the word house, al-bayt. Al-bayt. Right? Al-baytu. Right, so notice here the last haraka is a single dhamma. That's because there's an alif lam on it. If there was no alif lam, it would be baytun. Baytun. So either you have an alif lam, but there's no tanween, or at the end there is a tanween if there's no alif lam. You cannot have an alif lam and a tanween. There's no word like that has a alif lam and a tanween. So in reality, the Arabs, they used to, if it's al-bayt, they would say it like that. Or if it's without an alif lam, they would add a noon to the end. So it's actually this. Baytun. Baytun. This is what it really is. It's a noon sakin at the end of a word. But the way it's written is with a double dhamma or double fatha or double kasra. In reality, it's just a noon at the end. So let's say ar-rajulu, man, the man. Ar-rajulu. If there's no alif lam, it'll just be rajulun. Rajulun. This is like, general Arabic. This means a man, the man, a man. That's what alif lam does. Makes it specific, like the man, a man. This is just a symbol for how they actually pronounce it. It's actually pronounced like this. Rajulun. Right? So that's how it is. Why is it like that? That's just a system that they use. It's a shortcut. Why? Because then you just have to write noon everywhere. So they don't do that. They just imagine it to be there. Now, we're saying here noon sakin and tanween. In reality, this chapter is just noon sakin. He adds tanween there because tanween is a noon sakin. Tanween is a noon. So this is a tanween. In reality, it is a noon sakin. Right? This is a tanween. In reality, it is a noon sakin. So that's why it's noon sakin and tanween, but in reality, it's just noon sakin. So that's what we're focusing on here. There's going to be four different things we talk about, inshallah. So the first thing we are going to discuss is going to be izhar. I'm going to erase this whole thing over here. Izhar. Izhar means to display, to make apparent. So what does it mean to make a noon sakin, to do izhar of a noon sakin? To make it apparent. So you're going to sound it. You're going to say it. This is when you have a noon sakin. Now, the whole conversation is talking about a noon sakin. If it has a noon with a haraka, none of these will apply. If you have a noon fatha, noon dhamma, noon kasra, this is not going to apply. This is only a noon sakin. So noon sakin after which there are the letters of the throat. That is when you will do izhar. Who can tell me what are the letters of the throat? Hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, kha. 6. These are known as huruf halqiyya or throat letters. Why? Because you don't need, if someone doesn't have a tongue, they could say these. Actually, if they don't have the full tongue, it would be kind of hard. But if they don't have the tip of their tongue, they would still be able to say these. If someone's lips was cut off, they would still be able to say ayn. Right? You don't need lips or a tongue or teeth to say any of these. That's why they're known as the throat letters. So now, if you have a noon sakin, and then after it you have one of these letters, one of these 6, the letters of the throat, you will do izhar. So examples. Right? So this is an example of hamza. Man amana. So notice the noon is very clear. Man amana. Man amana. It's not ma amana. Nothing happened to the noon. There's no idgham, there's no hiding. It's not ma amana. Just very clear. Man amana. So that's an example for hamza. Example for ha. Min had. وَلِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ had. That's another one, but this is min had. So noon sakin, thereafter ha, letter of the throat. So you're gonna do izhar. I'll just read off the rest. Noon sakin after which there's ayn, an'amta, an'amta. Right? So you want to make it clear. Common mistake, people rush through it, so they give the noon a haraka, an'amta, an'amta. So should ensure for sakin, you really want to stress it and don't let your tongue move until you get to the next haraka. An'amta. Example of ha, one haur, one haur, one haur, one haur. Example of ghain, fasayunghidun, fasayunghidun. So there's no ikhfa here. It's not fasayunghidun, fasayunghidun, yunghidun. So you have to transition from a noon sakin to a ghain. ماء غدقا ماء غدقا. Example of a kha, min khair, or karratun khasira. So even with the tanwin. So let me just give an example, a few examples of tanwin. Alimun hakim, alimun hakim. Right, so alimun hakim. That is actually a noon sakin, because it's actually like this. Alimun. Alimun. It's actually like this. Right, so this is very simple. Izhar. Now we move on. He gives like how you can recognize the signs. Inshallah, at another time we'll just look at the back of the Quran and look at all of the symbols together. So to save time, inshallah. moving on, we have, I'm going to erase this. We move on to the second rule. And we have idgham. So, if you have a noon sakin, and we already discussed idgham before, there's a whole chapter on idgham. It is basically fusing two letters together. The first one becomes sakin, the second one is the one that you actually are going to recite. So the details were discussed before. However, here for specifically noon sakin, when will we do a idgham with noon sakin and tanween? That is after noon sakin or tanween, you have any of the following letters: yarmulun, yarmulun, yarmulun. This is an acronym for each one of these. Yarmulun. Usually people say yarmalun, but the fi'l ramal. Anyone know what ramal is? Ramal is when you go for Umrah or Hajj and you do the tawaf. That's a ramyu. Rami. Rami is when you like throw the pebbles. Ramal is for males in the first three shouts, the first three rounds of the tawaf. For a Umrah or a Hajj where you have the ihram, you ittiba is you like release the shoulder, like you make the shoulder visible, and then Rami is to like kind of jog. It's not like jogging as in speed, but jogging in place. So if you see people doing that, it's not something weird. It's actually they're supposed to do that. So like go like this kind of. That's Rami. Ramal. Yeah. So there's Ramal Yarmulu. So I learned Yarmalun, which I don't know. Maybe it could be a different way to pronounce it, but here he has the dabt as Yarmulun. So now this, anytime you have a noon sakin followed by one of these letters, you will do idgham. There's a further breakdown after the noon sakin if you have one of these. So in all of the rules, you have noon sakin or tanween, then the following letter. So the throat letters, they come after the noon sakin or tanween. Similarly, these letters, yarmulun, if they come after the noon sakin or tanween, this is when you will do idgham. So there's a further breakdown, and he has two different, well, one is an acronym, the other one is not necessary. He has either yuminu or yanmu, whatever one you like. I think most of us learned yuminu. Yuminu. Or if you like yanmu. Anyone know what yanmu means? Arabic students? Nama yanmu. You guys gotta work on your vocab. Right? And the other one is la min ra. So there's a breakdown. Okay, what is this breakdown? Oh, yanmu means to grow. Nama yanmu means to grow. Yuminu means to believe. الذين يؤمنون بالغيب. And lam ra doesn't really mean anything. It's just two letters, right? So this is the separation of, do you do idgham with a ghunna or no ghunna? Ghunna is essentially holding, and there's a nasal sound with it. So if you have a nun sakin or tanween, and after it you have any of these letters, these are the same letters, by the way. It's just a different acronym, right? Same four letters. If you have any of these, you're going to have idgham with a ghunna. And if you have any of these coming after nun sakin or tanween, you will have idgham without a ghunna. And I'll give you examples, inshallah. So let's see here. Just bring the book here. So here are examples for all of them. These are only examples of Nun Sakin. There are examples of Tanwin. Maybe I should write some. Or I'll mention it. You guys can write those, inshallah. So look at this Yuminu. All of these are Nun Sakins. After that is you have a Ya in the first example, then Waw, then Mim, then Nun. In all of them, there's going to be Idgham, meaning the fusion. The fusion means that the Nun doesn't remain. Remember, the first letter in an Idgham is kind of erased, and then you retain the second letter. فَمَن يَعْمَلْ فَمَن يَعْمَلْ. So you hold it. There's an idgham. That holding is the gunna. Holding with a nasal sound. That's a gunna. Now, to test yourself, you have to hold your nose and see if that blocks some of the noise. So it should sound like فَمَن يَعْمَلْ. If someone reads like فَمَن يَعْمَلْ, and when they hold their nose, some of the noise is not blocked, then that is not a correct idgham, because you're not doing it with gunna. Gunna is a nasal sound. Also, on the other side, when you read, other than the places of gunna, you should not have nasal sounds. Many people speak through the nose, so it takes a lot of effort and practice to learn how to recite without using the nose. So try to read Surah Al-Fatiha without, while holding your nose. You will struggle on any kind of meme and noon because meme and noon uses the nose. But anything else, you should not hear sound getting trapped in the nose. Al-hab, ha, the meme obviously. Alhamdu lillahi rabbil alameen, right? Shouldn't be Alhamdulillahi rabbil. Right, that's too nasal. So we actually cannot use the nasal sound in recitation. So if someone speaks nasally, recitation is incorrect. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, like that. That's, some people do it in their normal speech. They've spoken via the nose their whole life, so they can't undo that. But the way you practice, you hold the nose and recite. So here you do want to hear noise when you hold the nose. The fa is fa without any effect, but my normal ya is ya. But here, like ya'mal, ya'mal, ya. But here is gonna be faman ya. Right? So that's the gunna. The next one, miu wali. Miu wali. Miu. The next one, mim mali. Mim. That's a complete gunna because of a mim. Same thing, lan nushrika. So this is idgham with a gunna. And it also entails that you're going to hold it. There will be a lengthening. Right? You can't say فَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِن وَلِي. You cannot do that. You have to hold. فَمَن مِم لَن. As for the other two, you will not hold it. Just a little bit. مِن لَدُنْهُ. مِن لَدُنْهُ. So it's not مِن لَدُنْهُ. There are some riwayas other than Hafs where you would do that. Mir Rabbik. It's not Mir Rabbik. You won't hold like that. So this is without a ghunna. Also, when you say Min ladunhu, there's a noon there, so it's hard. Mir Rabbik. So that is the difference between ghunna versus no ghunna. So this chart is about whether or not to have ghunna. These you do ghunna, and these you do not do ghunna. This is generally memorized, so you guys need to memorize this one. You need to memorize this one as well, and you need to learn the letters of the throat if you haven't. But I think this is in Nurani Qaida, right? Qaida Nuraniya, all of this is there. Yarmulun. All right, so most of you have done Qaida Nuraniya, so you would know this. But if you haven't, then you should learn the rule. Now, there's an exception. And there's a reason for it. If after the noon sakin, you have a waw or a ya in the same word, then you will not do idgham. Example. Qinwan. Or you could say sinwan. These are words in the Quran. Sinwan. Or dunya. Right? So if you had to do, see, it's a noon sakin and a ya. According to this principle, it would be dunya. You would never say dunya. Say hayati dunya. It would be idgham. Right? Because noon sakin and a ya actually would be hayati dunya. Dui with the idgham or with the gunna. This is a ya. Right? Noon sakin and a ya. In dunya, you have noon sakin and a ya. Dunya. You would say that, but that's not the rule. If it's found in the same word, then you do not do idgham. So notice these are all different words, not the same word. So that is the rule. So qinwan, sinwan, dunya, bunyan. I believe these are the 4 words in the Quran. Only these 4 words. Qinwan, sinwan, and those are examples of waw. Examples of ya is ad-dunya and bunyan. Just write it because it's the last one. Bunyan. Bunyan. And so for these, you will say the noon sakin. Okay. Now, he goes into the signs again. We'll do that another time. We can now go into the third rule, which is iqlab or qalb. He has it in the book as qalb, but most of us have learned iqlab, so you can just still call it iqlab. So what is iqlab? Iqlab literally means to change one thing to another, or qalb means that. So our hearts are called qalb because the heart always changes its condition. The emotions are always changing. It's one after another. So that is why it's called qalb. But qalb actually means to turn something around. Now in tajweed, it means to take the nun sakin or the tanwin, and if it's next to a letter ba, you will pronounce it as a mim ikhfa, mim mukhfa. So the rule of mim ikhfa, the ikhfa of mim, will apply here. Anytime you have a nun sakin or tanween followed by a ba, you treat it like a mim. So whatever we learned there. So for instance, basically just one letter, nun sakin or tanween, followed by, meaning after it, is a ba, one letter. Examples. And you'll see in the Quran a sign like a little meme next to that. Okay. So here's 4 examples. You have a nun sakin or a tanween. These are 2 examples of tanween. So the way it's written in the Quran, they'll give 1 haraka, and then instead of 2 harakas, they'll put a meme instead of the second haraka, which indicates you're going to do iqlab here. So iqlab is basically, why is this rule called qalb? Because you're switching, you're turning over the noon into a meme. You're transforming the noon into a meme. So just treat it like a meme. And then the rule of meme is if you have a meme sakin and then a ba, then you're going to have ikhfa. So this is called It's so essentially noon. Noon's ikhfa is like a meme's. No, noon's iqlab is like a meme's ikhfa. Equals meme ikhfa. It's the same thing. You will treat it the same. The noon's iqlab is essentially a meme's ikhfa. So what did we talk about ikhfa for meme? You have meme sakin and then a ba, you'll close your mouth. Mim ba'di. That's actually a noon, right? What was the example? ترميهم بحجارة. ميم ساكن ترميهم ميم ساكن بحجارة. ترميهم بحجارة. So that action that you're doing, you close the mouth fully, and then you go into the ba. You do that with the noon. The noon gets transformed. Mim. So you don't even say the noon here. It's not minim. Just go directly to the meme. And the way Sheikh Ayman says is don't have the gap. Right? I think everyone here, when you learn tajweed, you learn to have a slight gap in the mouth. So he says, do not do that, as that is something that was introduced later in tajweed. It's not right. There shouldn't be mim. See that? Mim should not be like that. Burika, or wherever your gap was, if it's in the center. Mine, I used to have like on the sides. Min ba'di. You guys know what I'm talking about? You guys learned that before? Okay, it's good then. If you never learned it, no problem. Just close the mouth fully. Mim, full closure. Mim ba'di. Burika. Bu. Remember with the dhamma you purse your lips. So burika. Sami'un basir. Jaza'am bima. Jaza'am, full closure. So that is the rule of qalb. Now the last rule is ikhfa. Now ikhfa, actually I'll introduce it. We're going to do a little bit more next time, because I want to talk about I'll just mention it here, and then next time I'll write out what he says. So ikhfa is basically hiding. Ikhfa means to hide something. So you're hiding the noon in the next letter that comes. What are the letters of ikhfa? Essentially, everything that we did not discuss. The hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, kha is here. Idgham was yarmulun. Iqlab was what? Ba. Every other letter is ikhfa. And if you guys want, then he has a poem, a line of Imam Jamzuri's, what is it called? Tuhfa or forgetting the name. You guys don't know the poem? Very famous poem in Tajweed? Guess that's not famous enough. It's very common, memorized. After Jazariya, probably the most famous. Studied before Jazariya. Yeah, Suri's poem. The first letter in all of these. The Slad, Dhal, Tha, Kaf, Jim, Shin, Qaf, Sin, Dal, Ta, Za, Zai, Fa, Ta, Dad, Dha. The meaning of the poem is Slif Dha Thana. Slif Could mean like describe the person who is praiseworthy. Kam jada shakhsun qad sama. How often has a person who is of lofty nature been kind? Dum tayyiban, remain pure. Zid fi tuqan, you will increase in taqwa. Da' zalima, leave the oppressor. So صف ذا ثنا كم جاد شخص قد سما دم طيبا زد في تقى ضع ظالما. So the first letter in all of them, these are the letters of ikhfa. If nun sakin or tanween comes and after is any of these letters, easiest way is to say, okay, if it's not these. But if you wanted to know, it's the first letter in this poem. So it's 15 letters. So for instance, for Swat, yeah. Mansura, Mansura. So next time I'll go into more detail. If you have a nun sakin or tanween and then after it is a harf of isti'la, then you will borrow some of that tafkhim. So you'll do ikhfa with tafkhim. What does that mean? So let's see. I'll give you another example. Insan. Right, so you have nun sakin, nun sakin. Here you have a sad, here you have a sin. So the way this will sound is insan, insan. The way you do ikhfa is you, instead of pronouncing the noon, you prepare your mouth for the next letter. So whatever the next letter is like you have your tongue and everything set up on the makhraj of the next letter. So sin is between the upper and lower front two teeth. The tongue is in between that. So when you're saying the in part, the tongue is already there. Insan. The only difference is when you say the sin, then it makes the connection. But it's not that you need to get all the way over there. You're already there. Insan. Now, for a letter of isti'la, who can tell me the acronym for the huruf musta'aliyah? Very good, mashallah. So Sad is among them. Sad. For them, remember we talked about tafkhim, heavy letters. Sa, has to be the thickening of the tongue. So when you do the ikhfa for a nun sakin which come after which there is a letter that has to have tafkhim, then you prepare for that letter, and in preparation of that letter, you're gonna have a thickened tongue. So it's gonna change the sound. So it's gonna sound like mau, 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 right? Mau, so because your tongue is already ready. So when it's ready for the sad, it has a thickening sound to it. You're just transitioning into it so you can hear it. Mau, mau, whereas insan, there is no, it's not insan. So that comes when you have one of the musta'ali huruf. Another example. Minkum versus, let me just erase this. Okay. So for the first letter, this actually needs more explanation. So I'm going to leave that there, but I'm going to come back to it. I'm trying to find similar letters. Let's do dal and dad. So min duni for dal. Min duni. And for dad, min mandud. Okay. So for min duni, what am I doing? When I'm doing the ikhfa, this is ikhfa. Why? Because it's not huruf halqi, it's not ba, it's not yarmalun. And I know it's huruf halqi. Your mind has to memorize these very well so that you can determine what it is. Here, I'm positioning my tongue for the dal. And dal is not a thick letter. So it'll sound like min duni, min duni. Tongue's already there. It's not like chilling in the back. It's just up in the front. And then when I say the dal, the connection is made. Min duni. Now for the dad, mawdud, mawdud. So you position your tongue for the dad, which is thickening of the whole sides, back, and everything. The whole discussion of dad. And then when you say it, you make a connection. Mawdud. So all versus that is important. Now these two are a little bit different. Kaf and qaf. Why are they different? Because these letters tend to block the throat in the back. Kaf and qaf, they block your throat from the back. When you say kaf, you're literally blocking your esophagus with the back of the tongue. You say qaf, it's just a little bit further than that. So here, the way ikhfa is done is ming is a complete closure in the back. Minkum. Ming, like if you had water in your mouth, it would not be able to go into your throat. Ming, it's completely blocked by the tongue. Minkum, minkum. Just as if your tongue is on the cuff. Minkum. And then for the qaf, it's a little bit thicker. Min qabl, min qabl, min qabl, min qabl. على كل شيء قدير شيء قدير, right? For a musta'ali letter. خمسة سادسهم. That's a wrong example. What am I saying? Where's the kaf? كراما كاتبين. It's complete closure. كراما كاتبين. You can hear, if you listen closely, you can hear that sound is completely blocked. So that's essentially the rules of ikhfa. That's like kind of, he has many pages on it, so I will summarize next time, inshallah. But that's pretty much all you need to know for now. These are the exceptions that they sound a little bit different. There's a complete blockage there. For other ones, there's partial blockage of the throat. So we're going to pause here, inshallah, and next time we will move on. If I feel like I need to summarize what he says regarding the rest of the chapter, I'll do that. Otherwise, we go into duration of ghunna, followed by the chapter of mad. How long do we lengthen? وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.